Welcome to Soltron. Today I wanted to show off my newest custom, which is this Velocitron Scourge, or I prefer Nemesis Prime custom. So I modified his trailer a lot. So you can see this first mode is a lot like the Fans Toys, or what is it? Fans Hobby Arch Enemy. So I really like that trailer mode where he could just get that central tower and turn it into a huge laser weapon. So I wanted to emulate that. So as you can see, he's got this massive weapon, and I made it so that this can kind of spin freely, so it's pretty loose. But yeah, he's got this really big weapon. His shoulders can't even really hold it because his arm joints are a little weak, but he looks pretty good with it. And then of course the rest of his trailer becomes like his backpack or his cape. So I think that turns out pretty awesome too. But yeah, you can see the weapon itself is pretty huge, and it's got these ball joint handles, so you can definitely hold it in a variety of ways that look very natural. And he's got a ball joint handle back here too. So he has no problem like picking it up and holding it. I mean, other than his loose joints. But yeah, I think that looks really awesome. So you could just easily slide these posts out of his hands, and then somebody else could go ahead and carry that weapon. But this is what the gun itself looks like. So it's kind of weird looking, and I had to fill in some gaps with these two pieces here. But you can see basically how I designed it, and of course I use Lego ball joints. This guy's pretty small, so he's mostly a good size for Lego ball joints. And then this barrel just attaches to the end, and that can just slide off. This part's really tight though. There you go. You can see it just connects to that. I couldn't really find a more elegant way to do it, but it looks good enough to me, so I'm okay with that. And then maybe at some point there could be a little stand. So I've got a good piece for that. Or actually maybe this could like become part of the stand, something like that, so we can balance the gun a little better. But anyway, that's the first kind of mod, and then the barrel just comes right off for storage. And then you can see the other thing he's got is his cape, which is just made of like these wing pieces. And this looks, I think this goes really well with his sword. Just this cool wing look with his giant sword, which of course is not the best looking sword, but I think it really works with this look. He looks very intimidating. You can kind of get like a wing look out of it. The wings are kind of not positioned correctly. I guess you could get sort of like a flying pose out of that. And then this backpack's not the most secure thing. It's only pegged in with this like one peg back here. And then the smokestacks kind of hold it because I trim little notches. But that's all that holds it in, is this one peg basically. So it's not the most secure thing in the world, but it gets the job done. And then the other issue is I use Lego ball joints, and these ball joints tend to be really floppy, is why I don't usually use them. This is like the biggest thing you could probably use them for, is like a Voyager figure. But these are pretty heavy, so these are going to flop around. But you can get a lot of cool poses out of this. And then these wings, because they have so much posability, if you move his arms out of the way, they could actually cover the front of his body, so he can wear them like a cloak. So if we just move the arms back so they don't get in the way of the armatures, you can get this cool like cloaked look, so he can be armored up. So that looks pretty cool, that it can cover like his body and protect him. And then you get like some side protection. Okay, this is getting like really fiddly. Okay, so that's kind of a cool look too, where he's got like these two armored pieces on his side. And then the other reason I did this was because of that DNA kit, or the Make Toys kind of version of him where these become giant cannons. I don't know why this is falling out so much. It was actually more sturdy than this earlier. Anyway, so he's got like another mode, and you notice I like painted these skirts to make his legs look a little bit shorter, lengthen out his torso a little bit. So you can just rotate the fists back into his forearms. And then these are going to peg into these pegs right here. So the back of his forearms right here are just going to peg right here, which helps with the stability a little bit and keeps the backpack on a little bit better. So you can see that's basically how that attaches, and you just do the same thing with the other side. Oh, I don't have the post in, so I have to go get that. You can get these 5mm acrylic posts on Amazon. I was using straws and stuff, but these seem to be a little bit more consistent, because sometimes, a lot of times, the straws are just too small, and these tend to be pretty tight. Though some of them are tighter than others, but you get a pack of like 10, so it works out pretty good. But that's what I've been using for all my posts lately. So you can get this kind of look out of him, and then we're going to add these pieces, which come from the leader Blitzwing, and those are just going to peg into these holes here. And now he's got these like giant blaster arms, which I think looks pretty decent. It's not my favorite. I actually like his giant cannon look better, but I was pretty excited to do this custom when I first got this figure a long time ago, and then I decided to get rid of him and buy him again when he was $17. So yeah, I think this looks pretty good. So he looks like he's shooting with these cannons, and these actually look like they're his arms now, which is pretty cool. So I gave him like these ball joint elbows, so he can get like this kind of posing, so he can like swing his arms around and like point them, and it looks a little bit more natural. So now it looks, I think this reminds me a lot of like Big O. But yeah, I think that's also a pretty cool look. It doesn't really look like he could pick people up with these arms or anything, but it's cool that he can like be a little bit more expressive. You can get like gorilla posing, and because these Lego ball joints are so loose, it's actually pretty nice, like moving his arms around, and then the armatures like stay in place, so everything like holds in place pretty well. So this is a pretty good upgrade, and I think he looks even better with his shoulder missiles going, and then these finger blasters like shooting forward, or I guess you can rotate the fists. The fists are on ball joints, so those rotate, and so do the bicep joints or the elbow joints. So you can get a good amount of posing out of this guy to make it look convincing. So those are those two modes. Oh yeah, and then I did one other thing, is he can also, we can put on these little Hero Factory armor clips just to make his arms, just to fill out his arms a little bit more so they look a little less empty. But yeah, I think these look pretty good. They look like convincing arms. But yeah, his giant cannon doesn't really do anything in this mode, so that's too bad. And then the last thing he can do is he gets a cool battle station mode now, which I think is way better than the stock mode. So go ahead and get his fist back out. And one other thing I did was I cut around the posts inside these fist pieces, inside these forearm pieces, to make the posts longer, so he can actually grip them a little bit better without them just sliding right off his fist. So now this pegs in pretty securely, so he can just equip both of these forearms. Okay, and then to get his fists back on, you have to like pop them out, and these are on ball joints, and you can just slide these ball joints out, which is pretty hard because they're very tight now. I didn't glue on the ball joints specifically so they could just be reattached here on his forearms, and you can have this mode, which still works and I think works pretty well with this figure, even though the purple doesn't really match up, but I still think that looks pretty good. That's not too bad of a look. But anyway, let's go on to his battle station mode. Okay, so the trailer actually transforms the same way. You could peg these little friction joints can peg back into place just right there. So this can still open and close normally. So you can get just the basic regular battle station mode. Kind of looks like this, I guess. So right, you get this normal kind of mode. It's not going to fold in half anymore because I put this giant piece here and this piece here. So it's only going to fold like this, which is actually what I want. And then this piece, we can just fold that out to give it a little bulk. But I like to fold this piece up like this. And then, oh yeah, like this, sort of. Oh, wait, like this. Okay, so basically this claw thing is now going to become his iron sights, so he can like view through that and aim his weapon. And then you just take that cannon bit, and we're just going to peg that back in again. Oh, I guess I pegged that in backwards. Okay, let's try that again. That's just going to slide on here. And I probably need to drill this out a little bit more because it's still pretty tight. But that goes like this. And then I quickly made like this handle bit out of Lego Technic pieces. And this is just going to replace this gun up here. So we're just going to take that out. And we're going to put this handlebars in instead. And that's where he's going to hold on. So there's a lot of like little parts forming going on here and there, like this barrel and these hand pieces. But you can get like the regular kind of stock configuration gun emplacement, which I think looks okay. But now that we've got these extra joints, we can just pop these out. And now these can actually become like walls that protect him. So we could put those and angle those in the front, so now he's like protected from damage. And I think, and then I like to just put this on his forearm because there's not really another place to peg it right now. But I think this mode looks pretty good. So you got like a really intimidating looking weapon. And he's still got that peg on his back, so I could just peg this sword onto his back. I don't know if there's another way you're supposed to peg this in. I guess you're supposed to use the handle and just shove that into his back. I don't know how it works. If there's like some kind of joint I'm overlooking. But I just use that acrylic peg in his back, so now he can hold his sword on his back. And you can get this look, which I think is pretty awesome. And he can just like look right through the iron sights. Let me adjust the tripod a little bit. He's like looking through the iron sights and aiming his Gatling gun now. So I think this makes a way better looking battle station than the base mode he used to have. So there it is from the side. So that looks pretty epic. And then it can be even better because you can rotate these pieces since they have the elbow joints. You kind of have to get the forearm armor off so they can bend all the way. So these don't really serve that much of a purpose. And now you can have all of his weapons all shooting at once. And I think that looks pretty good. All right, and here's a 360 of his battle station mode. Or it's basically just a gun emplacement, but I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, I think that's much better, much more fun than his original mode. All right, and then the last thing I'm going to try to do, I haven't done this yet, is I'm going to see if I can get this all to fit in his trailer mode. So his hands will definitely have to be popped off. And this like handlebar section. Okay, so basically you're just going to transform this kind of the same way as always. This gun section, you just fold everything up. Okay, so that's the top of his trailer, that's ready to go. And then I put a ball joint on this just so it can move out of the way a little bit more and just make more space so it kind of collapses. Maybe I might need to rotate it sideways. I'm not sure because I haven't actually tried to turn this all into a trailer yet. All right, and then we're going to go and take these sections. I think it's just going to be better just to pop these off and just peg them into their original joints so they can close up. Because this is a lot of different random pieces to fit in here, and I want to make sure everything kind of fits. So I'm just going to use the original joints and then just fold up these little arms the best you can. And then I think, well, actually maybe I'll just keep this piece off so you can see the inside. So everything's fitting so far. All these new arm joints fit in no problem. And now if we put the top on, oh yeah, I need to take out these acrylic posts that were for his forearms. These can be pretty tight, which is good. So you need to get pliers to get those off. But this all pegs together. Okay, so there you go. There's the half of the trailer. Everything's pegged together nicely. You can see the seam where I had to cut it for the elbow joint. It's not too terrible. I thought it would be a little bit smaller than that, but it's still a noticeable gap. But that all fits in pretty well. And then the real pain is just getting these red fists in because they take up so much space. But one fits in here pretty easily. And then the other one, like these forearm joints, are kind of taking up the space there, so it's not really going to fit there. And now I have this giant piece up here to make the gun a little bit more interesting. So it's not going to fit up there. Maybe the two fists can fit back here some kind of way, maybe on top of each other. Okay, I flipped it around, but you can see everything does fit in there. It's all crammed in. And then it's not really much, it's definitely not fun like packing everything in. And then these handles you could just like throw anywhere really. They don't take up much space. Okay, well it turns out everything does not fit in there, and that's because of these ball joints on the top of the gun. I made them a little bit stick out too much, so I'm going to have to take those out and lower them like basically 1 millimeter so that this will close correctly, but it's very close. Anyway, I'm not going to do that in this video. And then basically you just throw these handlebars in there, and then you can throw the gun barrel in the front and then just close everything up. And that would theoretically all fit together. Oh, there's a giant gap back there, so these are just going to fall out. Yeah, I had to make this gap for the elbow joints. But basically, that's his trailer. I'm going to have to do a little bit of fixing there, but I don't know, it's pretty packed full. I think his axe would still fit in there, so I can still put his axe in there too. And then his sword, I wouldn't put his sword in there because it'll probably just get bent up. There's so much happening in here now. I would just put his sword under his truck mode on that other storage area. But yeah, you can see I pretty much used all the space, and that was my whole plan. Was I wanted him to have a trailer that could give him a ton of different weapons, and then also combine with him to make like a combined trailer mode. But yeah, hope you like that, and I'll see you in the next one.